When Bob wanted promise, we run, we win. This is your friend James, the prayer paradox, also known as the prayer conundrum. This is evidence of personal investment. Years ago, someone told me they were praying for President Trump at the beginning of his administration, and it seemed odd to me, and I asked God about it. He said they lied. He said they weren't. Because, and here we're going to talk about, this is why. And this is what the prayer paradox, the prayer conundrum is. This is what happens when people pray. Whomever you pray for, you love. We're not talking about worldly love. We're talking about man that laid down his life for his friends love. So whomever you pray for, you will eventually love. You will eventually walk in love with. You will eventually have that connection with. What you invest in, you care about. This is a prayer conundrum. You won't run them down. You won't make fun of them. You won't be irritated when someone makes fun of you. You will be irritated if someone makes fun of them. You won't be calling them stupid. You won't be hating on them on social media. It's a tactical impossibility to pray for someone fervently and regularly for any extended period of time and then be able to hate on them publicly. This is the prayer conundrum. This is why the Bible, this is why you're able to help your, this is where Corinthians 13, which has been misused into a pseudo-love doctrine, this is where this comes into being. Because if you are praying for them, when they come for ministry, that is what Corinthians 13 is about. It's 12, 13, and 14. 1 Corinthians 12, 13, and 14 is about the ministry context only. When they come to you, you will be able to minister to them because you have been praying for them. You have forgiven them. You have not let the sun go down on your wrath. This is the prayer conundrum because it creates a care and concern for the person you're praying for. So you're not going to be cursing them. I do not tolerate any jokes or anything negative like slander. Anything, no jokes, no slander. Facts are fine. No jokes or slander about the former President Barack Obama, Clinton, Bush. It doesn't matter because I have zero tolerance for that because the prayer paradox, this thing happened to me. And that's why I do not have any toleration. Now listen, there are people who are liars and stuff like that. You don't ignore facts, how they actually acted, but this worked on me, and this is why I don't tolerate. You don't make fun of President Trump in front of me. You don't make fun of President Obama in my presence. Period. I have zero tolerance for that because of this. So it's a tactical impossibility to pray for someone for any period of time and then be able to turn around and hate on them and sing glory to Jesus on what's. Let's start. Just like musicians you like, teams you associate with, even people you go to battle with, or you're on a team in school, come on, and you fight, no matter how foolish they act, you're not going to let anyone talk bad about them because you've invested time and energy and life into the team. They may be acting stupid and you don't care for them, but when you're on that team playing soccer, come on. You may disagree with some of the stuff they're doing, but when you're in church, because you've invested in them, you're not going to be overly concerned. Come on. But this is because of investment. So this is where we're alleviating this lie that I've been praying for the president and I'm still able to call him names and stupid and say he's not qualified. Especially if his net worth is like maybe 10 times yours anyway. Okay, listen. What you're doing when you pray is you're making a spiritual connection with them. Like when Elisha's spirit went with Gehazi. Remember? His spirit went with him. His spirit, hey, my spirit went with you when you went to Name and the Syrian, lied. And when Paul, remember the time when he said let's turn over that dude in the church for committing sexual immorality to Satan for the destruction of the flesh? He said his spirit was with them. This works for kids and parents and friends alike. People can tell if you're praying for someone because you're this works for parents and kids alike. When you are praying for someone, you start making a spiritual connection. You start seeing and understanding that there might be a problem with how they're acting because of what's really going on. You're getting revelation from God. You're asking God, what's going on? Why are they thinking about this? Why are they doing this stuff? Because you're investing time into this. And because of this, that's why you start seeing people who are not as condescending to them as the people who aren't. And they think differently about these people. more than the people who don't concern themselves or really invest prayer in them. So you can tell people who've been praying for a kid or for somebody, seriously, they're laboring in prayer over this particular city. They talk about the city differently than the person who's not. You can say you are all you want to, but it's evident in your life, in your actions, in your words. So let's start. One, if you did the prayer paradox, when you start praying for someone, you will start, one, making more allowances for them. This is grace and forgiveness. It's like, oh, you're praying, you're believing God for them. You're not looking for mistakes or waiting to pounce on them. Let this apply to parents and teachers and pastors and congregations alike. You start making more allowances. There's grace and forgiveness for them. You know, they messed up, but you're praying for them. They say something they're not supposed to. You're praying for them. They curse on national news, but you're praying for them. See? Because you're pushing forward. You will make more allowances. You'll forgive them. You'll do your best to speak grace and for the Lord to have mercy on them. Help them change their minds. See? Can't you see as you keep doing this? You're building a relationship with this person. That's why the people who listen to music and the people, they love their favorite actors and actresses because they're listening to them all the time. They got the picture of them on their wall. You know, why? They're creating a connection with them naturally with the eyes and stuff like that, and mental connection just because they're listening and watching. But when you're praying, you're making spiritual contact with this particular person. You're sending them in, just like President Bush said, you could feel the prayers. And anybody says they can feel the prayers. I remember Chaplain Fort Rucker said he could feel the prayers when the people were praying. So you make more allowances. Two, the prayer paradox. You're serious about them doing right. This is a difference between someone who's really praying for someone to get out of drugs and someone who's not. Someone who's really praying for God to bless someone with a job and to do well socially and economically and financially than someone who's not. Because you're serious about them doing right. You're trying to help them. You're trying to get things done. And you're working to find a real spiritual solution instead of hating on them. Because if you're actually praying for someone, this conundrum, this personal investment, you are serious about them doing right. Now, that's not the same as someone who hates on someone and just want them out of power. You want a real parent praying for their child. They want their child to come to the knowledge of the truth of God so they can stop doing drugs or having sex outside of marriage. See, that's a different approach than you just need to stop doing that. You just need to stop doing that. See, you're not serious about them stop doing that because you're not doing anything to help them stop. And you have the opportunity as mandated by God to pray for your leaders. 3, I want to keep this short. You keep them before God and even try to get others to help fix the situation. This is not, and you don't make, so you keep them before God and even try to get others to help fix the situation. Not make fun of them or trying to invent new ways to do stuff to them, to get them out of power, to impeach them, stuff like that. What you are trying to do is you are trying to amass, when you're talking to somebody else about them, you're not going to run them down. A parent who's believing God for their mayor to do right, when their kid's talking to them, they're not, I'm an idiot. Now, of course, that deals with faith too, You're undoing with your faith because you're talking words, but, you're going to keep them for God. You'll keep this person for God. Jesus, what about this? Jesus, what's going on? Behold this stuff. You're trying to get this thing fixed. See, your concept is to get the thing fixed. You don't want them thrown out of power. You don't want them kicked out because they're causing problems in the church. You want the thing fixed. Why? Because you do it for yourself. If you're a CEO acting dumb, you want someone to pray for you so you can keep your job. But that's how you can tell when someone's praying for someone and someone's not. The way they're talking. I just want them out of power. There are people who need to get put out of power, and that's just, the justice of God. But the way you talk, you're trying to get people, well, why don't you pray for the president? Instead of running them down, why don't you go spend an hour in tongues, you Pentecostal Christian? Why don't you pray for him every day? Put a picture of him and say, Lord, thank you for granting this man wisdom or getting him out of power. Do that every day for 30 days. You'll probably hear from heaven to change your attention. That's why people get mad and fight over, football teams, because they got that logo of their favorite team, and they don't really particularly care for you running down their favorite team. And that's just a mental connection. 4, You're genuinely interested in them spiritually and desire them to do right. This includes salvation. The Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, we pray for every person. We don't want anyone to go to hell. Catholic, Muslim, or whatever. See, you can tell if someone's genuinely praying for someone because they'll even start thinking about other parts of their life. This woman's a grandmother. She's a wife if her husband's still here on this planet. Come on. President Trump, he's a father. He'll probably eventually, I think he might be, I don't think he's a grandfather yet. But, I mean, come on. These people have, you're interested in them spiritually. You want them to reach the best God has for them spiritually. This is not evident in people who aren't praying and lying and say they are. You desire them to do right. You're not trying to invent new ways, like I said, to impeach them or punish them or inflame others to hate them too. See, someone who's praying wants to get it fixed. They're not mad and hating on Seattle. They're trying to pray for it to get fixed because of the innocent people who live there. And you'd want them to make the right decision. If they don't, got to get them out of power. But you don't hate on them. Like those people who mock folks and don't care about the people's personal feelings. That's how you can tell when someone's really not praying. Because when you're praying for someone, you're not going to let someone mock them. If you're praying for someone, you'll start caring about, you can care about how they feel. You should start caring about their feelings. Someone praying for someone in drugs, someone in sexual immorality. You start wondering, how did they get to that point? Like that one man whose mom told him he was a girl his whole life. He eventually just said he gave up. See, but someone who's not praying for people who are fighting homosexual tendencies and thoughts and ideas from hell, they'll just say, kick them to the curb, who cares? Drunkards, if you start praying, how did they end up in that position? Family breaks apart, divorce. You see, when you start praying, you start coming and discovering and going to God for the spiritual, what's the root and cause of the situation. See, this whole concept is much different than someone who doesn't know the person, not praying for the person, doesn't care about the person. See, this is the prayer paradox. It starts letting you see what needs to be fixed. 5, you respect their position and spiritual capacity to destroy their life if they so choose. That's very important. You do respect their position. That's how I can tell when people aren't praying for the president, because they don't respect the position. That's how I can tell people aren't praying for their parents because they don't respect the position. That's how I can tell people aren't praying for their pastor. They don't respect the position. That's how I can tell people aren't praying for any particular person in any department head of a church because they don't respect the position. That's why, and you have to respect people's spiritual capacity to destroy their life if they so choose. This is one of the other things you do. I did not agree with President Obama 99%, like 98, 99% of what he said. He was a great speaker, but what he did to this country, I do not appreciate nor approve of. And but I do respect his position, so I'm not going to mock him. But I also respect the fact that he made those decisions himself. He has access to the kingdom of heaven if he wants to hear from the kingdom of heaven for the country, United States of America, those 8 years he was in office. But you have to respect them. And this comes through prayer. Prayer breeds respect. When you pray for your leaders as God tells you to, it breeds respect. And this is what it does. You start understanding and realizing, they're really making their decisions to do wrong and sin. I'm not talking about Obama right now, but if they want to, if you keep praying, you will come to the point where you will start realizing that these people are made in the image of God and they can make their own decision. You can't play around them. You can't be their friends, but you will be able to walk in proper spiritual love with this person, as in you're praying for them. That's real love, and stuff like that. So you respect their position. This is something if they so choose. This is the prayer paradox. This is the things that happen when you really start praying for somebody. President, so that's it. 6, the last one. Your pressure and faith is in God. This is how I can tell. This is how people can tell. Your pressure, this is what's coming out your mouth. Your pressure and faith is in God and not them. All your, I was about to say hatred and animosity. You're not praying for them anyway if you have hatred and animosity. But if all your focus is on them, then that means you aren't lifting them up to God. That's how you can tell if someone's praying for their president because their focus is on God. So your pressure and faith is on God, not them. No matter, as whatever they do is not going to affect you. This is very easy and simple to tell from simple conversation. Because just like a parent who's not trusting God for their kid to do well in school, they're going to focus on that kid, they're going to focus on that kid, they're going to focus on that kid, and emotionally and mentally strangling that kid, making them wake up in the morning and do this stuff, treating their kid like dirt because they're not trusting in God to take care of that child's personality, to take care of that child's schooling. See, who you put pressure on lets us know who you're believing. You're believing the bank, or God. Healthcare, socialism, socialized, free healthcare, or God. The government, give me money, give me, or God. So your pressure is easy to tell from simple conversation, because someone who's been praying about somebody means they're giving it up to the Lord. Like Reverend Copeland said, his mother was, God save him, God save him. I think the woman she gave it to the Lord. I believe it's his grandmother. See, her faith is in God, but she was bringing it to God. She wasn't saying, Kenneth, you need to get saved. You need to get saved. You need to get saved. See, that's how you can tell. Prayer is an investment. And those people who don't invest, so first of all, prayer is an investment, guys. And those people who don't invest, no matter how much they say they do, they don't care about the project or person. And they're liars if they say they did invest. So listen, prayer is an investment. This is the prayer paradox. This is the prayer conundrum. This is the evidence of personal prayer investment in somebody. Your faith is in God. Your faith is in those things. But this is what this whole concept is about. That was point 6. This is the end. This is the explanation. Prayer is an investment, guys. There's all these things. You make more allowances for them. Grace and forgiveness. You're serious about them doing right. You keep them before God. You're genuinely interested in them. You respect their position and spiritual capacity to make decisions. Your pressure and faith is on God, not them. Listen, prayer is an investment. This is the prayer conundrum. This is the prayer paradox. Because what you put into it, how much energy and time you put into praying for this person in authority will be evident for everybody. So you can't say, I've been putting in hours of prayer for President Trump if you ain't acting like it. Because eventually something's gonna fruit. Jesus said you'll know them by their fruit. And your social media posts is your fruit. What you're saying to each other about the people are your fruit. And so how much they say and do, doesn't matter how much they pretend they do. They don't care. And that's one of the things I've noticed is that people who aren't praying don't care about the product. They didn't put money into the bank. Who cares if the bank goes belly up? Because they didn't care. I mean, if they prayed, they probably would care if that particular bank went bankrupt. But they hate their governor because he's a wicked, evil person who doesn't want to believe God and wants to, go against President Trump. I'm going to do whatever I want to. Go against their governor. If they're a mayor or something like that. It's simple enough. The prayer paradox explodes all that out of the water. That's how you can tell. Because they will not have any, allowances or anything like that. But if you're praying for that governor, you really want the situation to get taken care of. And you'll be careful how you talk about that governor because you're bringing that governor before God. That mayor, you're bringing that mayor before God. So you're careful because you're having a context with God, who is love. His name is not love. That is not a name of God. But God is love. And so when you are dealing with God about somebody or something, this amount of stuff you're investing in, you don't want to see it fail. That's how you can tell the real person. They don't want the person to fail. A mother praying for their child who's in drugs doesn't want them to fail. A father praying for his daughter who lost her job doesn't want her to fail. Someone praying for the President of the United States of America doesn't want them to fail. I did not want, when I prayed about President Clinton and the mistake that happened, where they almost wanted to impeach him and get him out of the thing, I did not want him to get impeached and embarrass himself in the entire United States of America. See, but if I was a hater who wasn't praying for him, I'd have been like, forget him and throw him out. Love covers a multitude of sin. So let's continue. This does not mean, this does not mean you give sin a free pass. Now listen to that. Paul said kick that dude. He kicked that dude out of church who was having sex with his father's wife. John, the great apostle of love, he said he'd take care of some people in the church causing problems. Go read his last three epistles, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John. Come on, for God so loved the world. He said he's going to come take care of some people. Jesus himself said he'd deal with Jezebel if the church in the book of Revelation he was talking to didn't do it. So all this prayer, what's name is not you condone and sin, pseudo love doctrine, takes no account of a no, that's don't take that out of context and try to apply it to everything. Jesus himself said he was going to take care of that girl, like I said, and Ananias and Sapphira dropped dead in front of Peter for lying to the church. So this is not a free pass for sin. The prayer paradox does not give free pass for sin. That's why you can tell. For you really praying for someone, you're talking to the holy God, so he is not going to let you say, oh, don't worry about all this stuff and what. So all this doesn't mean that there's a free pass, that God's just going to let people live on in their sin. Okay, God did not put Hitler in power. He did not allow Hitler to stay in power. Hitler died and was removed out of power. Anyways, look up the quote where he said, I'll send them to you on luxury liners. Hitler gave the United States, the UK, and some other countries the opportunity to remove the Jews out. So this God's sovereignty junk, come on. God did not, he said what he was going to do. We saw that's a historical thing. You're going to have to do a lot more history if you're going to talk about it. If you want to talk about the sovereignty of God. Listen, Hitler warned them. That's why it was called the final solution. But anyways, how do we get off of that? Judgment still comes. This does not give a free pass. Judgment still comes. You may find yourself irritated or annoyed with a wicked politician. Their refusal to submit to God, but your response to them will always be spiritual and not dirty memes and slander online. This is the prayer paradox, the prayer conundrum. Because you've invested so much prayer into this person, your response will be spiritual and not natural. You're not going to curse them out. Boom! You can rest in God to remove them from power and undo all their wickedness, to protect the innocent because your faith is in God, not them. So that's an interjection. So it's like the prayer paradox, all this is like investing. It's like the prayer conundrum, in personal investment evidences. It's like a mom. So we got, I already read that. It's like a mom travailing for a wayward son, a doctor who won't give up resuscitation on a dying individual, a team who fought all the way to the championship and they don't want to give up. Anyone who's put in long hours, acts differently than those who haven't. Anyone who's put in long hours into the team, practice, golfing, or whatever, they act differently than someone who hasn't. Anyone who's put in long prayer for the President of the United States of America will act differently than someone who hasn't. Anyone who's put in long prayer concerning the deliverance of the United States of America and the world from the coronavirus artificial pandemic will act differently than someone who hasn't. Anyone who's put in prayer for their state's Department of Health will act differently than someone who hasn't. You can't invest into something without strong evidences that you have. And the more you invest into it, the more you're serious about it. You're praying. You're just like someone in a car. Someone who buys a car and they just bought the car. They didn't invest, and that's just it. They, gave the car away or whatever. Didn't do anything. But imagine someone who buys a car and puts $50,000 worth of new equipment in it. They're concerned and they like that car and they're serious about that car. This includes prayer. So don't lie and say you prayed for President Trump or Obama or Pelosi or Bush if you didn't. It's a lie, guys. And your actions already prove to the contrary. The prayer paradox, the prayer conundrum, these evidences of personal investment are evident. And they're visual, and it actually happens, and that's what happens when you pray for anything. So watch yourself and be careful. When you start praying for people, you'll start seeing them in a different light, but it will be a spiritual light too. So like I said, it doesn't alleviate sin. God's not going to say, just let them do whatever you want to. It's all about you, and you just leave them alone. No. Especially if you're a parent. That doesn't work that way. But this is how the Lord showed me, and it's very simple, that when someone says they're praying for someone and they're not, you can tell. So, like we said, whatever you invest in prayer, you care about, and all this stuff, all these evidences are true. And this is what's going to happen to you. So watch yourself when you start praying for President Trump. Watch yourself when you start praying for Pelosi. You won't want her or him to drop dead. Don't lie. So this includes prayer. So don't lie and say you prayed for someone if you didn't. It's a lie, and your actions already prove whether or not you have labored in prayer for them. You can't fool anybody, especially God. Live, be.